As promised, it is 10:05. Good morning again, everyone, and thank you for attending today's Construction Code Development Listening Session with the Department of Buildings on Residential Code. Before we get started today, just want to go over some run of the house rules we have here, just to make sure that our listening session is a smooth session, but to make sure that our attendees today have an idea of what to expect and what you'll see. So all attendees will be muted during the presentation today, and you'll only be able to see the content being shared as well as the DOB panelists attending today's listening session. As the presentation concludes today, we will have a feedback session where you will have the opportunity to provide feedback on the information shared today. We just ask that when you provide your feedback, please keep it to a 2-minute minimum just to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to share today. Also, please utilize the chat to also provide feedback during today's session. We intend to have a large group today, so we want to make sure that we provide different options for you to give your feedback. And lastly, when we get to our feedback segment, if when you're ready to provide feedback, please just raise your hands. I will then send you an invite to unmute your mic, grant you the floor, and you can make your comment and provide your feedback. But lastly, just want to remind you again that we ask that you keep it to a 2-minute minimum to allow everyone to have a chance to share. And without further ado, I'm going to now pass this off to our presenter for the day, Mr. Nev Jordan.
Hey, Nev, you're
Nev,
muted.
you're muted. Thanks, Mike.
Apologies for that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for attending the DOB's fourth Construction Code Development Listening Session. Today is August 5th, 2026, and we are focused today on the residential code. Our agenda for today is as follows. We'll start with a brief overview, move into construction code development process and timeline, feedback on the residential code, and have closing remarks. Just to give you an overview for what we'll be discussing today, the DOB is preparing to issue regulations to amend and update all 12 construction codes to keep pace with national model code cycles and support safer, more efficient, and more sustainable development across the district. This involves a robust public engagement process, and DOB has kicked this off with a series of virtual listening sessions. These open, facilitated sessions present an opportunity for stakeholders, partners, and community members to share input, raise concerns, and offer questions that will help inform our work. DOB reviews the International Code Council, the ICC, 2024 model codes and drafts local amendments incorporating feedback from agencies and stakeholders, as well as substantial work completed during previous construction code development cycles. This allows the district to carry forward previously vetted concepts, lessons learned, and community-driven recommendations into the new set of local amendments. The proposed amendments will be published in the DC Register and will then be available for public comment. After the public comment period has ended, DOB will review comments received and make proposed changes as necessary. If substantive changes are necessary, DOB will publish a second proposed rulemaking that will allow for additional public comment. If no substantive changes are necessary, the mayor will send the proposed amendments to the DC Council for its review. If the council does not act to make any changes to the proposed amendments within the required review period, the new code provisions will be published in Title 12 of the District of Columbia Municipal Regulations, the DCMR. Now we're going to move into our construction code development timeline. We're currently in phase one, which is the first notice of proposed rulemaking. Throughout 2026 of the summer, we will be holding our listening sessions. We've already had three. Our first one was on June 25th, 2026, property maintenance, swimming pool and spa. Our next one was July 9th, 2026, building an existing building. On July 23rd, 2026, our listening session was on electrical. You are currently here on August 5th, 2026 for the residential code. As we move into fall of 2026, we'll publish our first notice of proposed rulemaking, and then we'll move into a public comment period, which will give you 45 days to make your comments and make us aware of anything that you would like us to know. Move into phase two. It'll be our second notice of proposed rulemaking. Early 2027, we'll prepare content for the second notice of proposed rulemaking. Moving into the summer of 2027, we'll publish that second notice of proposed rulemaking. We'll have a second public comment period, which will be shorter, will be 30 days. Moving to phase three, which are our final codes. Summer of 2027, we'll prepare those codes. Fall of 2027, we'll have a council review period. And then late 2027, we'll publish final codes. Please note this is an estimated timeline. Now we're going to move into our section of the listening session where we receive feedback. So regarding the current residential code, we're seeking your feedback on the following: code provisions that work well and should be maintained, sections that are difficult to interpret or apply, requirements that create challenges during design, permitting, construction, inspections, maintenance, or enforcement, areas where clarification, modification, or additional guidance may improve the code. And while we have this session for our feedback, I would like to introduce our panelists. So listening in with me today are Strategic Enforcement Administrator Keith Parsons, Chief Building Official Nicole Rogers, Deputy Chief Building Official Michael Brown, and Chief Inspection Official Peter Nyabosa. As stated earlier, please raise your hand and please try to keep your feedback to a 2-minute maximum. We do have a large group here, so we are looking to make sure that everyone is heard and has an ample amount of time to speak. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and get into our feedback.
Thank you so much, Nev. So our first respondent for feedback is Mr. Jack Lyons. Jack, I've sent you an invite to unmute your mic. You have the floor.
Thank you. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can. Just a reminder, a
Perfect.
2-minute maximum.
I will take 1 minute and 50 seconds.
That's
All right.
amazing.
That's right. Thank you. Listen, I spoke in the electrical code listening session, but I wanted to bring up some of the highlights of the 2024 IRC. And bring to your attention some of the great strides they've created in the electrical section of the IRC to address shock and fire hazard in 1 and 2 family dwellings. So I think it's very important to maintain some of or all of the changes that have occurred over the several cycles of the electrical code development, and as they address GFCI protection. Of course, AFCI protection has proven itself to be both fire and shock hazard technologies that have improved the safety of homeowners. The some of the changes in the 23 have also dealt with first responders protection with our service requirement for emergency disconnects, which is a very important aspect of first responder safety. And and the and to go further than that, we've created a lot of uh, optional standby system generators, creating a lot of safety aspects of generators. So all of these things are tied into the new 2023 code. And I just offer my services during your review process, that if you have any questions or any concerns about some of the things that have occurred, I can certainly provide you the substantiation and the feedback from the industry on how important these things have been. So again, I offer my services for your review process to help explain some of the changes that have occurred. But we've seen a lot of safety built into the 23 code, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much. Sorry, now.
No problem.
So our next attendee to provide feedback is Mr. David Ruman. I have unmuted your mic. You have the floor.
And can you hear me okay?
We have
Yes.
great sound.
Okay. Two quick items for you. I hope they're appropriate for this session. One is, I don't know how it fits into the DC code, but in the National Electric Code, section 625.17c puts a 25-foot limit on charging ports for electric vehicles. And that makes it approximately impossible to legally charge your car across a public sidewalk. There's a lot of detail behind that that I won't go into here. I suggest an exemption in DC for level 1 and possibly level 2 charging for in residential areas, or from charging from a home. And I can explain more in email or something. The other item is that the state of Washington is currently considering, the people, your counterparts in the state of Washington, are currently considering modification to the codes around use of heat pumps. The issue is that the most sort of advanced refrigerants that are allowed in heat pumps here have very high global warming potential. And in Europe, they are moving to propane as a refrigerant, which has vastly lower global warming potential, and also supports heat pumps that can operate at higher temperatures. And that's valuable for a house like mine that has radiators, which are designed for high temperature water, like 180 degrees. And apparently propane lets you get up to higher water temperatures. And so if we're serious about reducing greenhouse gas emissions in DC, that's like 70% buildings right there. And a big part of that has to be converting to heat pumps. And that means a lot of retrofitting. And these new heat pumps are now allowed in Europe. They've been used thousands of times. I mean, they've been installed thousands of times, but it could be at least 10 years before US code allows them here. So what they're considering doing in Washington is allowing people to use the European standards as an alternative compliance standard. And I think we should consider that here. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. Would any panelists like to chime in? Right.
Our next attendee for feedback is Mekonnen. I have unmuted your mic.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the presentation and calling the public to provide an input on the code changes. These code changes are going to be effective on the life safety of the buildings and the occupants if the designers are aware of what is changed, if the permits officials are also aware of it, and mainly the inspectors and the public are aware of what is changed. So when are we going to expect this training to be provided to the public and the inspectors who are enforcing it in the field, that they can get trained and make sure that this code is enforced appropriately. We just want to know when, so that we can schedule our plan too. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback. Peter, would you like to?
Thanks for that feedback. We will have a series of training for our inspectors just before implementation, and it will be all the disciplines. And we will also be posting significant changes for our external customers. So we will communicate that information ahead of time so that the general public are aware on when this training will occur.
Thank you, Peter.
And our next attendee is Matthias. I have sent you a request to unmute your mic. You now have the floor.
Good morning. Thanks for holding this session. I have two pieces of feedback. One follows up on the comment that David Rudman made on the code changes needed to facilitate low GHG heat pumps. That was a code change proposal I put forward in the botched process to update the code that we went through in the last 6 years that the mayor threw down the toilet. And that is a cross-cutting issue that affects fire, mechanical, not just residential. And in the 2024 base code, I believe there were provisions that try to integrate under which conditions and how low GHG refrigerants were able to be, permitted basically. But I think it's an important issue that David points out, and one should go back and make sure that that actually worked. But there was a boatload of work done along those lines that the mayor basically threw down the toilet. The more general comment that I wanted to make was that the past code cycle that the CCCB went through did make efforts on the residential side to comply with the district's climate commitments, which require the executive to put forward policies that help reduce greenhouse gas emissions by certain amounts, by certain timelines, like 60% by 2030, et cetera. And as part of that, the residential code was intended to be all electric. And it is my expectation that that would be carried forward in the current code update cycle. After all, it's the law. The ICC itself doesn't have these provisions. And so it would be important feedback to put on people's minds. Thanks for your time and attention.
Thank you for the feedback.
Mr. Matthias, if I could just jump in real quick, Mike Brown, Deputy Chief Building Official. I appreciate your comments about the work done by the CCB with the 21 code. I, in fact, had two of our electrical plan reviewers go through all of the work that you guys did and then crosswalked it with what's in the IRC this year. And in most cases, I think it was 70-some% of the cases, what you were doing then is what's in the new NEC now. So I think you'll be very pleased with where we ended up. So thanks for that feedback, and we'll be looking forward to hearing more from you.
Appreciate all your work. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next attendee is Carrie. Carrie, I've sent you a request to unmute your mic. You now have the floor.
Thank you so much. And everybody can hear me, yes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sorry, I don't have all the right vocabulary, the right terminology. I'm not going to sound as good as other people who have asked questions or spoken. This is just sort of a plea, and I'm sure you all can put the right vocabulary to it. I'm kind of hopeful now that we have a new mayor coming, but it takes time to get policies and things put in place. Just wondering if there's chance of updating some things in the rules and regulations to allow district residents to get more out of our homes. I'm just going to give my example, but I know there are hundreds and hundreds of other people who are in my situation. Years now, we've been sitting on drawings to renovate our unfinished basement. The idea was to sort of, make it more usable, putting in a bathroom. We have like a quarter bath down there. You have to walk outside to go wash your hands in the nasty utility sink. Office space. My husband's working in a half unfinished space right now. He blurs his background so people don't see him. Guest room. So, a TV room, um, and replace the existing utility sink. If not, put in a wet bar so you could make your sandwich and grab your beer while you're there watching the game. We wanted our elders to be able to be with us, but have their own space, right? My dad, may he rest in peace, and his now widow, possibly, staying with us. They could come upstairs, play with the grandkid, so on and so forth. Come do our laundry, right? We lost my father-in-law in the time when we've been waiting to do this. We can't put a stinking sink. We can't even replace our utility sink because apparently that would then require us to put in all kinds of fire rating and all kinds of stuff. It's just ridiculous. We have people, we have vacant properties. We have people who are who could all be living together as a multifamily and or a multi-generational family, and they can't. We just some of this stuff is so complicated and ridiculous. Yeah. Uh, there's really no reason I should have to do all of this if I want to use my basement. Thanks.
Thank you for the feedback.
I'll just
I,
jump in there. Good morning, Nicole Rogers, Chief Building Official. Sorry to hear your story. You can reach out to us separately because it sounds like there may be some other items that are more process related. So if you do want to reach out to us to provide those details of your specific issue, we can definitely look further into it to help provide clearer guidance. So I just want to mention that. And, as we go through the listening sessions, what's really going to be critical is ensuring that you all understand the timeline and that when that public commenting period comes, that you're providing that critical code specific feedback. Thank you.
I'm sorry. Can I should have said something else that I didn't say. Is that okay? Can I continue for a moment?
Sure.
Okay, and thank you, Nicole, for that. If if you let us know who to write to, I can send my story there. Um, Basically, for those who don't think about these things, um, we were told that if we wanted to replace our existing sink and not do all of its other stuff, that we would have to sign a covenant promising that no future owner would rent out the space. Like, we don't plan to rent out the space because my husband knows it would make me nuts to have someone living downstairs that isn't related to us. Um, but yeah, we'd have to sign a covenant saying that no future owner would ever rent out the space. Or we'd have to block off the stairs so the grandparents couldn't actually walk up the stairs to play with the grandkids. Um, yeah, we're not interested in reducing our home value by cutting it up that way. And really, all of it has felt like a way to not allow people to grow in their homes or to age in place, so that more could be earned by big development firms that are doing things in front of me, behind me, and next to me, but I can't fix my house in a basic way. So thanks a lot, and thanks, Nicole, for offering the connection to share my story.
Thank you for the feedback.
Our next attendee is Jane Malone. I have sent you a request to unmute your mic. You have the floor.
Sorry,
Okay. Oh,
I
there we go.
apologize. My apology.
We can hear you,
Okay, my
Jane.
name is Jim Malone, and I wanted to thank you for having this session today and for accepting feedback on your plans for the update to the codes. I'm really pleased to understand that you will be updating to the 2024 version of the ICC codes. And I just wanted to reinforce that you presently have adopted in the district Appendix F of IRC, which pertains to passive control of soil gas in new homes. And with the 2024 code, the letter of the appendix will change to Appendix BE instead of Appendix F. And with that, it will also bring in a new subsection for a testing requirement, a post-construction radon testing requirement. And I just wanted to reinforce the importance of adopting that appendix in its entirety and not just the previous subsection, which was all that was available to adopt before, that you adopt the entire appendix BE when you work on the appendices for the IRC. And just one more thing, importance of radon, it's the second leading cause of lung cancer in the United States, 21,000 lung cancer deaths a year, et cetera. So it's so important to continue that requirement for the appendix with the updated to Appendix BE and especially including the testing requirement. Furthermore, we would be glad to provide assistance if anybody would want to strengthen that testing requirement. It is pretty simple and basic, but basically the idea is that there would not be an occupancy permit until there's evidence that the building's radon gas level is below the EPA recommended 4 picocuries of radon per liter of air. Thank you.
Thank you.
And our next attendee to provide feedback is Daniela. I have sent you a request to unmute your mic. You have the floor.
Am I unmuted? There. I think I'm unmuted.
Yes, yes, you
Yes.
are.
Oh, okay. So, thank you. I have a very simple, urgent, small gap in the code. My home shares a boundary with a busy parking lot. The house sits right against the edge of this parking lot. It's about a 40-car parking lot. It's a bank. The previous bank branch kept those concrete wheel stops at the edge of, you see at the edge of most parking spaces. They're very inexpensive. They're about $15 a piece. The new branch did a renovation and removed those parking stops. I have no code to get them replaced because um, okay, so the gap is that government lots or new construction has to have those parking stops, but if it's an existing public parking lot that's commercially owned, they don't have to put them in. Only for new construction and for government public parking lots, not for commercial public parking lots if the parking lot borders a home. And since my house is 1796, it's pretty fragile. And it's getting to the point where about once a month, a car, low speeds, but is hitting the house, causing it to shake. So I'm recommending that we close that gap and require wheel stops in the parking lots that border homes in commercial lots. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the feedback.
Our next attendee to provide feedback is Brian. Brian, I've sent you a request to unmute your mic. You have the floor.
Hey, am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Great, thank you. Yeah, thanks for taking this listening session and the feedback. I'm a member of the public. I have a couple of just quick requests to consider. The first is to require a boundary survey be completed for residential properties that are undergoing major construction. We have a neighboring property that's extended by 35 feet. No boundary survey was required. They got a plat. The plat obviously doesn't tell you where on the earth the the lot line is, and it should not be on the neighbors to pay the $5,000 to have a boundary survey when someone else is developing their property. The second one is just to, when there are infractions on the code, to have enforcement, particularly for fire safety. There is a gap between the structures that has been there since March 2025 that is still not closed due to some delays that the developer and homeowner are putting out. It's been a fire hazard since March 2025 and still unresolved. And then, I think this might be a little bit beyond the scope, but just please for vacant property exemptions to be fully scrutinized before being granted, particularly in cases with history of infractions and continued infractions without course correcting. So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Our next attendee for feedback is Kirby. Kirby, you've been sent a request to unmute your mic. You now have the floor.
Apparently, is the mic working?
Yes, it is.
Yes, simple question. I'm an advisory neighborhood commissioner, and I'm looking right now through the link that you provided to us about the building code. But it as an ANC, the question that I get from neighbors is, what am I required to do to dig out my basement and make it a residence? Can I build a back porch this way? It's not very helpful, the looking through what is published in the register. Is there an index that I could go to, for example, for questions like that, sizes of back decks, that would refer me to the place in the code? I don't know how to wade through the code link that you provided there to find that kind of question. Thank you.
Thank you. Floor is open for.
So this is Keith Parsons. Let me jump in there, and it's a good question, and remember that the DC Register is only going to show you local amendments when you're looking for a code answer. So one of the options you can do is if you go to the ICC website, the folks that make the model codes that we use, then they have free viewing of the model codes. So you can go to whatever model code you're looking for. Their website is pretty powerful. It does have some search options, so you're not just digging through without help. And once you find the section you're looking for in the model code, then after that, I would go back and look at the DC Register and make sure there aren't local amendments to it. But with all that being said, I do think we are hoping that at the end of this code cycle, we will be able to make available more powerful versions of the new codes for everybody. So we're definitely aware of the use issue, and we do want to help. So thank you for the comment.
Our next attendee for feedback is Lyle Blankert. I have sent you a request to unmute your mic. You now have the floor.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Excellent. So, hello everyone. I think I know Michael and David and Peter and Nicole and Nev. It's it's good to see your face. So, long story short, when I worked at DCRA in the director's office, I was the legislative advisor to the predecessor of the construction codes. It was called the Construction Codes Advisory Board at that point. So my big, and I worked with the with the administrative and enforcement tag for many years on rewriting essentially chapter one. So I want to know for both the residential codes and the other codes that have a freestanding chapter one that the ICC has developed and is sort of a plug-in, fill it out kind of approach. If DOB for DC for this next 2024 code, or if we go jump forward and do 2027, if we're going to have a standalone administrative chapter that applies to all of these codes, that covers permits, section 105, inspections, covenants, definitions, emergency conditions, C of O's, stop work orders, all those fun things that people deal with on a regular basis. Tell me how that's going to be implemented, please.
Thank you for the feedback. Floor is open for any panelists that might want to chime in on that.
Hey, of course we know you, Lyle. I think what would be most helpful for us is during the public comment period, if you could definitely put together the language you would like us to be considering. That will be easier than for us to take it through the code development process and air it out. But always like listening to you and hearing from you.
Our next attendee to provide feedback is Jennifer. Jennifer, I've sent you a request to unmute your mic. You now have the floor. Up, Jennifer, I'm going to resend you the request. I think you accidentally put yourself back on mute. Here we go.
Oh, so sorry. You're
It's
right.
okay.
So sorry. Yes, thank you very much. I'm an architect who does a lot of work in DC for residential, both multifamily and single family residential construction. And I've run into this problem on both types of projects with the natural and mechanical ventilation. In the building code, there's the code will say, like, existing building code, for instance, and residential building code says this too, like, provide ventilation by mechanical or ventilation shall be provided by either natural or mechanical means. But what happens is in my code reviews, it's like the fact that it says or doesn't mean anything. Like, it's pretty clear in the code that you can either, if it's an existing building, you can either provide ventilation by natural means, the 4% opening, window that's operable within certain distances of the ground, and da da da, or mechanical means. And what happens for me is I end up with projects that are renovations of an existing building that's 100 years old. It has an existing window in the basement. It's not like I can extend it for the 1.5, like the mechanical code requires, like, the window's sill, quote unquote, be 1.5 times the depth out. I understand that for new construction, great. Like, for existing construction where it did not exist, it makes it impossible to renovate somebody's home to provide either a unit in the basement or even any kind of a quote habitable space. Like, they're not even supposed to have a living room down there. And it feels like the word, like, because it refers to per mechanical code, the DC mechanical code, it's like I end up getting this, like, back door. Oh, it's provide ventilation by either natural or mechanical means. And then the IMC code says provide both. Well, okay, so, like, there's no acknowledgement that there's an or for existing buildings or residential construction. It's just provide both because IMC says that. So it causes a lot of problems for residents that want to renovate their homes to make them more usable or to put in a basement unit, like any of that kind of development. So I wanted to ask if there was a way to make it more clear in the code, like existing buildings, if there's an or, make the or mean something. Don't use it as a backdoor way to be like, okay, IMC says provide mechanical and natural ventilation. So because it says that, or doesn't mean anything. Thank you.
Jennifer, it's nice to hear
Yeah.
from you as well, since you're a
Yeah.
frequent flyer
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
I appreciate your feedback. We can get that clarified, and some of that is just a matter of how of maybe an improper interpretation here. So I will also review that with the plan reviewers. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much.
And at this time, I'm going to just give a few seconds in case anyone else wants to raise their hand. We have been responding to your comments in the chat, so thank you so much, everyone, for utilizing that to make sure everyone has an opportunity to speak. There is a couple I will read from the chat, and I will start with Anthony Lee. I'm just going to read your feedback. I do understand you don't have a place where you have a mic, so I'll read that for you. And Anthony Lee is, I'd like to ask if any consideration has been given to square foot minimums for multifamily developments. For example, Baltimore City has codified occupancy limitations per their building code, Part 7, Section 404, found here. And there was a link that Mr. Lee provided that I just shared with our panelists. Okay, I'm still scrolling.
Hey, I'll jump in on that comment very briefly. I do think that when we go to the line by line comment period, to the extent there are places in the code where those sorts of things are addressed with, I think that's a very fair item to comment on. I know in the property maintenance code, for example, there's some measurements of, how big is a room, how big is, a living room and such for occupancy purposes. So, yeah, that'll be addressed in the full public comment and to give us feedback at that time.
Do we have anyone else who would like to provide any feedback before we move on? Great. Now, everyone, I'd like to draw your attention to our list of upcoming listening sessions. We'll be covering Fuel Gas Code, Mechanical and Plumbing, August 19th, 2026. Energy Conservation and Green Construction on September 9th, 2026. Fire, September 24th, 2026. If any of those or all of those are of interest to you, you can scan the QR code down at the bottom of your screen and register to attend. Please remember these are opportunities for you to let us know any sort of unique challenges the codes have presented to you, any sort of changes that they have made that you would like for us to be aware of. This is your opportunity to come and make us aware. And before we conclude for the day, I would like to give a special thanks to Mayor Bowser and the DOB Director, Brian Hanlon, for all of their assistance with our code development team and our efforts in moving things forward. And with that said, thank you so much for attending. We appreciate you coming out and sharing that. This concludes our listening session.
Thank you all so much. Have an amazing Wednesday.